One sentence killed my career. One click erased my past. They thought they buried me under the label dead weight. They didn't know I was the foundation, and from 6,000 miles away, I will build an empire on their ashes. My name is Eliza Navarro. Eli to my friends. Though I wasn't sure I had any left, I stood frozen in a navy blue silk dress, the exact shade of the Oratech logo. I'd chosen it for that reason. The clinking of champagne glasses shattered in the thick air of the Austin Convention Center. I was 38 years old. My heart skipped a beat, a heavy, misplaced drum against the symphony of applause. On stage, bathed in a spotlight so bright it hurt, my husband, Mark Bishop, held aloft the Innovator of the Decade award. He flashed the 100-watt smile that charmed VCs and started his speech. I held my breath, waiting for we, but the only name he said was I. Mark's speech was an epic poem to his vision, his sacrifice, his genius. He thanked the board, the investors, even his executive assistant. I, the woman who wrote 70% of the original Aura platform code in our cramped apartment 10 years ago, was relegated to wonderful support at home. My throat tightened, the air sucked from my lungs. The feeling of being invisible had never been so absolute. I was a ghost at my own banquet. During the Q&A that followed, a tech reporter from TechCrunch asked the question I'd always dreaded. Mark, what was your wife Eliza's role in developing Aura Rumor? Is she was the original brains? The room went silent. Mark laughed, a dismissive, patronizing wave of his hand. Oh, Eli, she's fantastic at handling the soft side of things. Company culture, event planning. He winked at the crowd. Honestly, she's become legacy code in a cloud-based world, essential at the start, maybe. But now she's just dead weight, slowing down the process. Laughter erupted. Not cruel laughter, but the sympathetic chuckles of industry insiders, people who understood the ruthlessness of innovation. Cameras swung toward me, capturing the exact moment the blood drained from my face. Legacy code, dead weight. He'd said it, not in a private fight, but in front of the entire tech world. It wasn't just an insult, it was a professional assassination. I felt hundreds of eyes dissecting me, judging me as obsolete, expired. I turned. I didn't run. I walked. Each step on the plush carpet was a hammer blow to my chest. Mark's booming voice faded behind me. I could feel the stares of pity and curiosity. I didn't cry. It was worse than tears. It was the cold, hollow void of a system that had just been completely disconnected. I had given 15 years of my life to building Oratech and this man. Tonight, they had both declared me dead. I stepped outside, and the humid Texas night air hit me like a slap. I stood on the curb, my designer dress now feeling like a ridiculous Halloween costume. I stared at the glass and steel skyscraper of the Oratech headquarters in the distance, a building built with my sweat and my mind. Dead weight, I whispered. A taxi pulled up. Where to, ma'am? The driver asked. I took a deep breath, the metallic taste of betrayal in my mouth. The airport, I said. No, wait. Take me to 1800 Congress. I didn't go to our penthouse. I went to a private bank branch with a secure ATM. I used a credit card Mark didn't know about, one tied to an account I'd kept since college. Inside, I retrieved a cold wallet from a safety deposit box. It looked like a harmless USB drive. On it was what Mark had mocked as my silly side project from 5 years ago, 800 Bitcoin I'd mined on a homemade rig, and something far more valuable, the only copy of an algorithm I had been secretly perfecting. I returned to the glass penthouse near dawn. Mark still wasn't home. He was no doubt celebrating his victory. I didn't pack clothes. I didn't take jewelry. I went straight to my office, plugged the cold wallet into a server hidden behind a false wall. I initiated a sequence of commands. First, transfer my entire crypto holdings now worth tens of millions of dollars to a new Swiss account. Second, upload my secret algorithm to an encrypted cloud. The final act was the most devastating. I logged in as a senior admin to Auratech's central server. I found the cornerstone, the original core code I had written, the code he'd built his entire empire on. I stared at it for a long time. Instead of deleting it, I added a single hidden comment, a digital signature only another coder would ever find, created by E.N. Deadweight. Then, I triggered a script to purge every trace of my existence from the system. I twisted my heavy diamond ring off my finger and placed it on the keyboard of Mark's laptop. I walked out of the apartment with one backpack and nothing else. I drove my Tesla north on Interstate 35, but only far enough to clear the Austin city limits. I knew Mark controlled everything. This car was tracked. My phone was a listening device. My credit cards were beacons. At a truck stop in Dallas, I left the Tesla, keys still in the ignition. I left my phone in the restroom, playing a meditation podcast. I stepped onto a Greyhound bus heading west, paid for with cash. On the bus, surrounded by the tired faces of night shift workers and backpackers, I finally felt invisible in a good way. The steady growl of the engine was the only sound. I closed my eyes, but I didn't sleep. My mind was racing. Legacy code. The term cut deeper than dead weight. Legacy code is what gets ripped out, rewritten, forgotten. A pure, hot anger finally burned through the shock. They hadn't just dismissed me. They had erased me. I changed buses 3 times. Dallas to Denver. Denver to Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City to Portland, Oregon. With each change, I bought a new hoodie from a thrift store, a new baseball cap. I kept myself looking tired, ignorable. I used cash for everything. In a Portland public library, I used a public terminal to access my Swiss account and make one final purchase, a 50-acre abandoned lumber mill in Wallowa County, Eastern Oregon. I bought it through a Delaware shell corporation I had set up years ago. Buying a truck was harder. I went to a used car lot on the outskirts of Portland, the kind of place where cash didn't raise questions. I picked a rust-colored 2010 Ford F-150, a battered beast with a strong engine. The salesman looked at the city woman with soft hands and an oversized hoodie, then at my stack of cash, and just shrugged. Driving it was nothing like the Tesla. It vibrated. It was loud, and it smelled like grease. I felt it was perfect. The 6,000-mile journey, including detours, finally ended as I drove into the Wallowa Mountains. This place was another world. No glass, no steel, no 5G, just pine, rock, and an endless sky. The road to my property turned to dirt, then to a 2-track trail. The truck groaned in protest, and then I saw it. The lumber mill wasn't just abandoned. It was a skeleton. The roof was partially collapsed, windows shattered, and a thick layer of moss covered everything. I got out of the truck. The cold November air bit my cheeks. There was only absolute silence, broken by the wind whistling through the pines. This was not a cozy bed and breakfast in Vermont. This was a ruined fortress. For 1 second, the reality of what I had done hit me. I had left billions, a life of insulated luxury, to stand here in the mud. Panic rose, thick and choking. I circled the main building. A heavy steel door was secured with a rusted padlock. I found a rock and smashed the lock. The crack of metal on metal echoed through the valley like a gunshot. Inside, it was dark and cold as a tomb. The smell of mildew and animal droppings was overpowering, but the bones were good, massive steel beams and concrete floors. And most importantly, in the ruined office, I found what the property filing had promised: a 3-phase industrial power line and a cut fiber optic connection relics from the county's failed attempt to turn this place into a data center. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my truck with the heater running, staring at the huge, black shape of the mill. I was alone, completely alone. No assistants, no housekeepers, no husband, just me and this concrete monster. I opened my secure laptop, connected via a weak satellite hotspot, and logged into my account. The money was there. The algorithm was safe. "All right, Mark," I whispered to the screen. "You called me dead weight. Let's see what this dead weight can build." The first dawn in Oregon was brutal. Gray light exposed the true scale of the rot. I got to work. I am no tech princess. I grew up working class in San Antonio. I know how to work. I spent the first 3 days just cleaning. I put on work gloves, used a crowbar to pry up rotten planks, and shoveled out layers of leaves and animal droppings. My muscles, accustomed to yoga and Pilates, screamed in protest. The first problem was power. The three-phase line was there, but the panel was destroyed, a mess of rust and fried wires. I drove 40 miles to the small town of Joseph. The place felt like a step back in time. At the hardware store, I asked about an electrician who could handle industrial power. The owner, an old man chewing tobacco, squinted at me. "Most folks around here just need a toaster fixed, but you could try Sam Kincaid. He's eccentric, but he's the only one who knows the difference between an amp and a volt." Sam Kincaid, maybe 45, arrived in a truck even older than mine, a three-legged Australian shepherd trailing behind him. Sam was lanky, bearded, and had alarmingly intelligent eyes. He looked at me, then at the mill, then back at me. "What are you planning on doing here?" "Opening a year-round Halloween party." His voice was dry. "I need the three-phase panel reconnected and stable power run to the main building, and I need a fiber optic line reactivated. Immediately," I replied, my voice leaving no room for nonsense. Sam stepped inside, letting out a long, low whistle. "Ma'am, this is a month's work, not a day's." "I'll pay you triple." I cut him off. "In cash, $20,000 for this week, with one condition: you don't ask what I'm building, and you sign an NDA. Sam stared at me. He'd seen people running from something before, but this was clearly another level. $25,000, he said. "And you buy my dog steak." "Done," I said. While Sam wrestled with the ancient electrical system, I started my own work. I used my cash to buy a flood of equipment backup generators, industrial space heaters, and most importantly, high-end server components delivered to a post office box in the next town over. I assembled the server racks myself in a windowless, reinforced inner room, my hands growing calloused. One night, Sam was working late, trying to wrangle a stubborn transformer. I was in the corner, soldering a custom motherboard. Sam stopped. "That's surface mount soldering. Where'd you learn that craft class?" I looked up, my eyes tired but focused under the safety goggles. "MIT, course 6.3. I have a master's in electrical engineering and computer science." Sam put his wrench down. He looked at me, really looked at me for the first time, not as a rich landlady, but as an engineer. "MIT. Then what the hell are you doing out here, soldering in a collapsing mill?" "I'm rebuilding," I said, turning back to my work. "And I'm low on time." Sam's curiosity was sparked. He didn't ask any more questions, but his work pace doubled. 7 days later, Sam threw a massive, archaic switch. The old fluorescent lights buzzed, sputtered, and then flooded the mill with light for the first time in a decade. The entire space was washed in harsh white light, exposing every crack and cobweb. But it had power. "Phase 1 complete," Sam announced. "Now what, Dr. Frankenstein? What monster are you planning to revive in this cage?" I didn't smile. I led him to my secure room. Inside, the servers were racked, their status lights blinking, ready to go. "I need you to connect the fiber. I need 10 gigabit speed, full redundancy." Sam stared at the gear. This wasn't office equipment. This was enterprise-level infrastructure. "You're not building an Etsy shop," he said quietly. "I'm building something called ethos," I said, "and when I turn it on, my ex-husband is going to send an army to stop me." Sam Kincaid just stood there in the server room, the white noise of the cooling fans filling the silence. "Who is your ex-husband?" he asked. I hesitated. This was the moment of trust. "Mark Bishop, The CEO of Oratech. Sam's eyes widened. He was a recluse, but even he knew Oratech. Hell, you're not just running from a bad marriage. You're running from Silicon Valley. I'm not running, I corrected him, my voice steel. I'm preparing to countersue. I explained it. Not the whole story, but enough I designed the core architecture. He cut me out. Now I was building a new platform, a decentralized one that couldn't be controlled by a single entity. A platform that would make Oratech's entire data harvesting business model obsolete. Sam, a fierce privacy advocate, listened with growing intensity. I need more than just power. Sam. I need a fortress. Physical security. Redundant networks. Are you in? You're picking a fight with a giant. Sam said, I know. Good. He smiled for the first time. I was getting sick of fixing toasters. Sam became my unofficial operations manager. He brought in a small crew he trusted. Not tech people, but tradespeople. Maria and Carlos, a husband and wife team who specialized in structural steel. Veterans of oil rigs. They asked no questions. They just took the cash and got to work reinforcing the walls and the roof. They installed secure steel doors and bulletproof glass. The lumber mill slowly transformed into a high-tech bunker in disguise. While they built the exterior, I built the interior. I spent 18 hours a day coding. The algorithm I'd carried with me was the key. It was a predictive AI, capable of analyzing network patterns and patching security vulnerabilities before they could be exploited. Mark had wanted to use it to sell user data. I was going to use it to protect them. The server room grew hot with computational energy. The sound of my keystrokes was the building's only heartbeat. The first threat didn't come digitally. It came physically. A gleaming black SUV with California plates drove slowly up to the front gate. Sam and I watched on a security camera he'd mounted. A man in an expensive suit got out, identifying himself over the intercom as being from a commercial real estate firm. We heard this property was sold. We represent a client who wants to make a significantly higher offer, he said. Tell him it's not for sale, I ordered. He's no realtor, Sam muttered, zooming in on the license plate. That plate is registered to a subsidiary of Oratech. My heart hammered. Mark had found me. Not me, personally, but my shell corporation. The hunt had begun. He's scanning for Wi-Fi, Sam said, pointing to a device in the man's hand. Good, I said. Let him scan. Our entire network was air-gapped and shielded. To the outside world, this mill was still dark and dead. The man lingered for another 20 minutes, visibly frustrated, then left. But the message was clear, the clock was ticking. They'll be back, Sam said grimly. And next time, they won't knock. Then we have to be done before they do, I replied. I accelerated everything. I started hiring top-tier programmers. Silicon Valley dissidents I knew hated Oratech. I interviewed them over encrypted video calls, never showing my face or my location. I sent them work modules, paying them handsomely in crypto. A secret, digital army was forming, commanded by a general they had never even seen. A package arrived at my post office box. It wasn't server equipment. It was a blue velvet box from Mark's lawyer. No letter, no note. Just a single legal document, a petition for divorce. I sat in my truck, reading the terms under the weak dome light. Mark was suing me for spousal abandonment and financial malfeasance, accusing me of stealing marital assets. The most brutal clause was on page 4. He demanded full ownership of all intellectual property developed during the marriage, including any personal projects or hobbies. That was it. He didn't care about the crypto. He was hunting my algorithm. My anger chilled, solidifying into ice. He wasn't just calling me deadweight. He was trying to legally codify his theft, to turn me into an unpaid employee of his own empire. Holding the papers, I fell into a memory. I remembered the night I showed him the first demo of the AI algorithm, 5 years ago. We were in our mansion on Lake Travis. He'd barely glanced at it, multitasking on his work email. "It's cute, honey," he'd said. but it's unscalable, and who cares about privacy data is gold. He had dismissed my masterpiece like a child's drawing. That arrogance, I realized, would be his downfall. I needed a lawyer. Not a Texas divorce lawyer, but a warrior. Sam knew someone. She ain't cheap, and she's scary as hell, he said. Diana Hayes in Portland. She specializes in IP lawsuits against major corps. Eats them for breakfast. I drove to Portland, this time through a snowstorm. Diana Hayes's office was on the top floor of a historic building, overlooking a furious Willamette River. She was a sharp, black woman in her 50s, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit. She listened to my entire story without interrupting, her keen eyes assessing every detail. I handed her the divorce petition. Diana scanned it. A classic alpha male playbook. He's trying to frame you as an amateur. Hobby project. He's building a narrative that you're incapable of creating value without him. We have to break that narrative. How? I asked. Not by defending, Diana said, rising to look out the window. We don't respond to this filing. We ignore it. Instead, we prepare our own suit, a blockbuster. We will sue Mark Bishop and Oratech for fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and trade secret theft for the very code he built his company on. But how can I prove it? I asked. Your signature, Diana said. You said you left a hidden signature in the Oratech code. Yes? Just a comment line? That's all we need. We'll file for a code audit. He'll have to produce it. When he refuses or tries to scrub it, he immolates himself. Diana gave me a list of actions. Go back to your fortress. Keep building. Stay dark. Talk to no one. Be a ghost. But you need to be ready to launch Ethos not in a year, but in 6 months. The only way to prove you're not a hobby project is to launch something that threatens to swallow him whole. I drove back to the Wallowas, the snowstorm easing. I felt a cold clarity. This was no longer a divorce. It was a war for my legacy. Mark had underestimated me for the last time. He thought I would crumble and come crawling back. He didn't realize that the dead weight he had cast off was actually the jet engine that had been keeping his ship in the air. The pace at the mill became frantic. It was January. The snow fell thick and heavy, isolating us from the outside world, but also turning the mill into a trap. The pressure to launch Ethos was immense. I was sleeping 4 hours a night on a cot next to the servers. Sam and his team were working 12-hour shifts, reinforcing the last of the weak points. The constant thrum of machinery and the click-clack of my keyboard echoed in the vast space. The second threat arrived. This time, it was digital. I was running a diagnostic on Ethos when a red alert flashed across my screen. Intrusion detected. Source Austin. TX. It wasn't an all-out assault, but a sophisticated, delicate probe. Someone was looking for a backdoor into my system. They're in! Sam! I yelled. My heart hammered against my ribs. Mark wasn't sending lawyers anymore. He was sending his soldiers. Sam ran into the server room. How did they get past the outer firewall? They didn't, I said, my hands flying across the keyboard. They came in through the fiber line. Someone at the telecom was bought. Cut the main connection switch to satellite. Sam yanked a physical cable from the wall. The servers screamed in protest, but the attack was severed. We were safe, but only just. The silence that followed was terrifying. We were cut off from our high-speed line. We can't build in the dark, Sam said, his voice strained. We need our line, but we can't trust the provider. Then we build our own, I decided. I called Diana. I need you to grease some wheels with the county officials. I need an emergency permit to install a private microwave tower on that ridge. The reason, high-tech agricultural research? Diana didn't ask why. She just said, "It'll be expensive." "Do it," I ordered. While Sam and his crew began the dangerous work of setting up a relay tower in the blizzard, I received an encrypted email from one of my remote coders. It was a warning. E-N, be careful. Oratech just put strict security on retainer. These guys are not amateurs. They specialize in asset recovery and industrial sabotage. They're not just looking for data, they're coming for the hardware. The chill I felt had nothing to do with the weather. Strict security. I knew the name. They were legal thugs, famous for gutting rival startups with brutal tactics. Mark wasn't trying to win in court anymore. He was trying to wipe me off the map. I looked out the cracked window at the falling snow. I had been alone for too long. I gathered Sam, Maria, and Carlos. "Things have changed," I said, my voice frighteningly even. "They're not just trying to sue me, they're trying to destroy this place. I'm doubling everyone's pay. But if you stay, you are in real physical danger." "There is no judgment if you walk away right now." Maria and Carlos looked at each other. Carlos, a man of few words, spoke up. "We've built things in the Gulf of Mexico during hurricanes. We're not afraid of some Silicon Valley suit." Sam just nodded. "You tell us where to point the guns, boss." Their loyalty choked me up, but I pushed it down. I needed to be a general. "All right," I said, unrolling a blueprint of the mill. "Maria, Carlos, I want every entrance except the main loading bay welded shut. Now. Sam, we're setting up a grid of motion sensors on the outer perimeter, and I want you to turn that new microwave tower into a weapon. I want the ability to discharge a localized EMP, strong enough to disable anything that flies within 100 meters. Sam raised an eyebrow. "That is highly illegal. More illegal than sending armed mercenaries to destroy private property." I shot back. "Do it." The war had moved from the courtroom to the physical world. The lumber mill was no longer a startup. It was Fortress Ethos, and it was preparing for a siege. The attack came at 3:17 in the morning, in the middle of the worst blizzard of the year. Sam's motion sensor system shrieked. "They're here," he yelled over the intercom. "3 snowmobiles, no lights, approaching from the North Ridge." I ran to the command center we'd set up, my heart pounding like a drum. On the thermal imaging screen, I saw them 6 figures in winter camouflage, moving with military efficiency. The Strix team. "They're heading for the transformer," Sam yelled, recognizing their tactic. They weren't trying to break in, they were trying to cut my power permanently, turning my servers into useless bricks in the freezing cold. "Maria, Carlos, lock down the main bay. Get your respirators on. They might use gas." I ordered. I ran to my own console. I had maybe 90 seconds. "Sam, is the microwave tower ready?" I asked. "It's charged, but Eli, if you use it, we'll fry everything in that radius, including our own comms. We don't have a choice. Divert all backup power to the server firewall. I need that data protected at all costs." Outside, the Strix team reached the transformer. 2 of them began setting explosive charges. The other 4 fired flares into the sky, lighting up the mill in an eerie red glow. "They're trying to blind us," Carlos growled from a firing port he'd created. "Sam, now!" I screamed. "I can't," Sam yelled back. "They're running a jammer. I can't get a target lock on the tower. Damn it!" I realized they'd come prepared. I looked at my screen. The data was backing up to a hidden offline server, but it was too slow. I needed more time. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed from the east. It wasn't an explosive. It was a high-powered rifle. One of the figures near the transformer crumpled into the snow. "What the hell was that?" I gasped. One of the snowmobiles erupted in a ball of fire. "That's not us!" Sam yelled. Over the comms, a dry voice crackled. "You owe me a case of beer, Kincaid." It was the hardware store owner, the old man I'd met. He and a group of locals, tipped off by Sam about armed poachers, were hidden on the opposite ridge with high-powered deer rifles. The Strix assault had just turned into a firefight they never saw coming. The Strix team was caught completely off guard. They began firing back wildly, but they were exposed. Another one of them went down. "They're retreating." I watched on the monitor. The remaining 4 grabbed their wounded, scrambled onto the last snowmobile, and vanished back into the storm. Silence fell, broken only by the wind and the hiss of the burning snowmobile. "They're gone," Sam breathed, his hands shaking. I leaned against the console, my legs unsteady. We had almost died. They won't try force again, I said, my voice hoarse. Mark can't risk a murder investigation. He'll have to go back to the battlefield he thinks he controls. I looked at the data backup. It was 98% complete. Sam, I said, a crazy idea forming. Mark thinks I'm hiding. He thinks he can crush me in the silence. He's wrong. I opened a secure channel. Diana, it's time. Call the press conference. We're not launching in 6 months. We're launching in 48 hours. 48 hours! Diana Hayes screamed through the phone. Eliza, you don't even have a public website. You're committing professional suicide. No, I'm defending myself. I replied, my voice ice cold. Mark just sent a team of mercenaries to kill me. Diana, the game of hide and seek is over. I'm taking this fight into the light. The only place he can't touch me is on a public stage. There was silence on the other end of the line. Mercenaries, Diana whispered. All right, not just a press conference. We need something bigger. Let me make some calls. She hung up. I turned to my team. They were exhausted, bruised, but standing. Sam, I need you to turn this place into a broadcast center. I need stable, triple redundant satellite links. Maria, Carlos, I want you to make the server room a work of art. Polish the floors, set up lighting. The world is about to see what we built. The next 24 hours were a cyclone of activity. Sam and his crew worked like men possessed, transforming the raw lumber mill into a high-tech stage. They hung lights, ran cables, and tested bandwidth. I didn't sleep. I finalized my presentation. This wasn't just a product launch. It was my testimony. Diana called back, her voice electric. I got her, she said. I reached Kara Swisher. She hates Mark Bishop. She's clearing her schedule to host an exclusive live interview with you. Not a press conference. A global event. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific. The news is already breaking. Aratech's mystery architect resurfaces with competitor. The financial markets reacted instantly. Aratech stock plummeted 8% in a single hour of after-hours trading. Mark's phone had to be exploding. I felt a surge of adrenaline. He's going to try and hit us during the broadcast. Sam. A massive DDoS attack. He'll try to take us offline the second we go live. Let him try. Sam grinned, and it was not a kind look. I've already rerouted everything through 3 different cloud providers. He hits one, we swap to the next. Plus, I kept a little present from our microwave tower. Any traffic that pings as originating from an Aratech server gets redirected straight to the IRS website. I allowed myself a small, tight smile. I went to the makeshift bathroom we'd built and looked in the mirror. A stranger looked back. My hair was matted. There were dark circles under my eyes and a fresh bruise high on my cheekbone from a piece of shrapnel during the attack. But my eyes, they were burning. This wasn't dead weight. This wasn't legacy code. This was a founder. I pulled on a simple black turtleneck and jeans. No power suit, no makeup. Just me and my work. I walked out of the bathroom. Sam, Maria, Carlos, and a few of the locals who had helped us were gathered. They looked at me with respect. I was their leader. 5 minutes, Sam said, handing me an earpiece. I stood in front of the camera. On the monitor, I could see Kara Swisher waiting. Ready, Eliza? She asked. I took a deep breath, the sound of my own heart roaring in my ears. I looked around the lumber mill that had become my home, my fortress, my empire. I looked into the camera lens, knowing millions, including Mark, were watching. I was born ready, I said. Eliza Navarro, for 10 years, you were the most whispered name in Silicon Valley, the mysterious wife of Mark Bishop. Then, you vanished. And tonight, Aratech's stock is in freefall on rumors you're launching a competitor. Tell the world, where have you been? Kara Swisher's voice was razor sharp. I've been in Oregon, I said, my voice calm and clear, echoing across the global broadcast. I've been in an old lumber mill, where I have spent the last 6 months building something my husband said was impossible. The camera pulled back, revealing the scale of the data center behind me. the blue lights of the servers humming like a futuristic city. Mark Bishop, in his acceptance speech, called you legacy code, a dead weight. Your response? Kara pressed. I agree with him, I said, catching Kara off guard. I am legacy code. I am the original source code of Oratech, and I'm here tonight to prove it. That's a heavy accusation, Kara said. Do you have proof? I do, I said. I shared my screen. This is Oratech's core code, filed with the Patent Office in 2015. And this? I zoomed in on a single hidden comment line buried deep in millions of lines of code. Created by E.N. Dead Weight, I explained. I left it there the night I left, a signature he was too arrogant to ever look for. On a split screen, the broadcast showed the Oratech headquarters. Reporters were swarming the entrance. News of the signature was already spreading like wildfire. But that's the past, I continued, my voice gaining power. Let's talk about the future. Mark said I was dead weight because I believe in privacy. He built an empire by spying on you. I built a platform to protect you. Introducing Ethos, I announced. A fully decentralized operating system. Your data doesn't live on my servers. It lives with you, encrypted and yours alone. Our AI algorithm doesn't predict what you'll buy. It predicts and neutralizes security threats in real time. Right then, Sam yelled from just off camera. We're under attack, a massive DDoS. This one's from Eastern European servers. My screen flickered. We're losing the connection. What's happening? Eliza, Kara asked, realizing the chaos was real. I looked directly into the camera, a cold smile playing on my lips. What's happening? Kara, is that Mark Bishop is panicking. He is trying to silence me, right now, using a massive cyber attack. I turned to Sam. Activate the gift. Reroute everything. But boss, do it. Sam, I commanded. Kara, I said, turning back to the camera. Watch this. This is what Ethos does. On the screen, I displayed a visualization map of the attack. Millions of requests were flooding my servers. Then, I hit a key. Ethos doesn't just block attacks. It identifies the source and isolates them. In a stunning moment, the attack map inverted. The massive flood of traffic was rerouted away from my servers. He thought I built a wall, I said. I built a honeypot. The audience watched, live, as Oratech's own servers, now overwhelmed by the very attack they had launched, began to cascade into failure. The lights at the Oratech headquarters, still visible on the split screen, flickered and then went dark. He just attacked himself, I declared. That is the power of Ethos, and as of this moment, the Ethos source code is open source. It belongs to everyone. I hadn't just launched a product. I had started a revolution. The silence after Oratech's system collapsed was louder than any explosion. Kara Swisher, for the first time in her career, looked genuinely stunned. Eliza, did you just take down Oratech? No, I said, my voice resonating with absolute authority. Mark Bishop just took down Oratech using his own arrogance. I simply refused to be his victim. I rose from my chair, walking toward the camera, filling the frame. For 15 years, I was silent. I let another person take credit for my work. I let another person define my worth. That night in Austin, my husband called me legacy code and dead weight. He was half right. I am the legacy code the foundation everything was built on, and the only dead weight I was carrying was the mistaken belief that I needed him to be great. Diana Hayes's line, which had been on standby with me, lit up. She unmuted. Eliza, the Department of Justice is on the line. They want to know about that signature. The SEC is opening an investigation into Mark Bishop for defrauding investors about his intellectual property. Oratech's stock, already halted, was now worthless. I looked straight into the lens. I wasn't talking to Kara anymore. I was talking to Mark, wherever he was sitting in the dark of his blacked-out headquarters. You took my company. You took 15 years of my life. You tried to take my name, but you forgot one thing. You can own the building, but you don't own the architect. You can own the stage, but you don't own the brains. I turned and motioned to Sam. The lights in the lumber mill came up to full, revealing the entire operation. Dozens of servers hummed, running the ethos code that was now being downloaded millions of times across the globe. Maria and Carlos stood nearby, arms crossed, smiling. "This is not a hobby project," I declared. "This is the future, and we are hiring." The broadcast ended. I cut the feed. The room fell silent, filled only with the hum of the servers. Sam was the first to speak. "Well," he said, "I guess I should start ordering more bandwidth." The whole team broke into laughter, a sound of relief, exhaustion, and pure victory. I walked outside. The storm had passed. It was almost morning. The air was freezing and clean. I took a deep, shuddering breath, feeling truly free for the first time. I hadn't just escaped Mark. I hadn't just beaten him. I had made him irrelevant. My satellite phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. Eli. The voice. Mark's voice. It was broken. Hollow. "What did you do?" "You destroyed everything." I looked out at the Wallowa Mountains, just beginning to glow with the dawn. "No, Mark, you did. The moment you called me dead weight, I just decided to stand up and walk away. Turns out, I wasn't heavy at all. I was just carrying you." I hung up. I blocked his number. I stared at the lumber mill, the old skeleton that was now the beating heart of a new empire, my empire, built from ashes, fueled by revenge, and coated with my own genius. I turned and walked back inside, my boots echoing on the concrete floor. "All right, Sam," I said, rolling up my sleeves. "We have a lot of work to do. Thank you so much for listening to this story. Please comment below and let us know where you're listening from. We'd love to connect and share our thoughts. Be sure to subscribe to Lily Revenge Stories, like this video, and give it an extra boost by hitting the hype button so more people can hear this story.